Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are well. So a few days ago within the week I posted on Instagram and I asked you guys to send me any questions that you might have related to possibly what I do, YouTube, business, and my television show. And to my surprise, quite a number of questions came in, and most importantly, love, which I really was just basking in so much. However, I must share with you guys that one of my greatest joys on all of my social media platforms is the fact that I am followed and I interact with people that want to grow, that want to better themselves, that really want to work on their lives and their dreams and their goals. And that for me just makes social media so interesting and it just makes it worth my time. So I really appreciate that. So if you do not follow me already on all my social media platforms, the links are below. I normally give you guys links to just make it easier for you to just click and hit follow. So please do follow me, chat to me, interact with me. I literally enjoy conversating with you guys and talking. So let's get into the video. So the first question that I'm going to answer is this someone says, I'm actually not going to tell you guys who asked the question because I don't know if people want to remain private, you know what I mean? So I'm just going to tell you guys what the question is. So the question says, how would you go about a 3-year engagement with no sign of a wedding soon? I'm 24. I think for me, I would definitely, wonder about the engagement first before we even go to the wedding. My personal experience and stuff that I normally advise people is that if you are looking to get married, when you enter a relationship, marriage should always be a discussion. Like personally, and this is like a personal thing, I never got people that got engaged and they didn't know that this homie was going to propose. You know what I mean? I've always believed in really just like having the conversation with someone, say, listen, these are my intentions. I really want to get married. So chances are if we are getting engaged, like where's the story, And I think it's also important for you to chat to your partner about it. Like once you get engaged, you need to start discussing how soon's the wedding going to be, like have the conversations, because sometimes we're assuming that this person just engaged me and they don't want to marry me, but they probably, like, let's say struggling financially or whatever the case may be. But I think that really take some time to have the conversation. 3 years is quite a while, and I really don't know how other people do it out there. I don't know what standards, really got there. But I think personally, I would have the conversation with my partner and be like, hey, yo, this is what happened. I think I would have the conversation immediately after the engagement. Like, cool, I see what you did, but what's the plan? When do you want to come to my house? Okay, and the other question is, tips on how you came up and executed Forever and Always. Really inspired. Thank you so much. So Forever and Always is my television show, for those that do not know, that plays every Sunday at 4 p.m. on How TV. So how I came about it was that as a young woman that is married, I just realized that, social media particularly, well, rather referred to as society, has different ideas of what marriage should look like, of what you should look for in a husband, and all those things that I didn't necessarily agree with, that I found that we're not practical, and that I found that, listening to and abiding by might be walking yourself into your own grave. So for me, putting my show together was a space to really kind of educate and bring the light to the fact that, number one, there's like so much positivity in marriage, but it can be done so well, it can be done so good. And the fact that it is not all the glitz and glam that people see on Instagram, but it is the real work. And I think the only people that really make it and that really enjoy it are the people that actually do put in the work. So that was really where my heart is, and my heart, most importantly, was to really just bring young women who desire marriage, young women who've heard about marriage, young women who are married, to really be in a space where they can really sit there and be like, sure, I relate to that. How do I deal with that? Because I think we're really in such a generation where there's a lot of, oh, he didn't reach you this morning, leave him, he ain't worth it, you can get another one, and all of that. And I just felt like if we carry on like that, at some point we are going to have a very dysfunctional society in more ways, but I think realizing that a marriage, like, it takes two to tango in marriage, and two people need to be willing to make it work. And Forever and Always for me was to bring couples, men and women, and say, guys, what do we go through? How have we done it? And just receiving a lot of feedback from that has been really inspiring, in a sense that people sit and they're like, dude, I've been going through that, but I couldn't tell anyone, because if I told my friend would probably put it on Twitter. If I told my friend would probably say stuff like, what are you still doing with that man when he just did this and when he just said that, So yeah, that was really where my heart is, just really kind of opening and bringing a light to marriage, but in a positive way. And the fact that sometimes people do go through problems and they do get through it, like they triumph through it within their marriages. And yeah, that really was where my heart was. So execution for me was, for Very Always, was very difficult. Not difficult, but it was quite challenging because I don't have television background. I've done radio before, but I've never been on TV before. I'd never been in front of the camera before. So it was rather interesting for me to be broadcasted on national television for the first time and people are watching. So it was quite challenging, but I think my execution process was just the fact that I'd been praying for the opportunity. Like 2 years back, I had pitched to the channel wanting to do something else and they wouldn't get back to me, and then 2 years later the opportunity actually comes. And I think most importantly, actually, if I can give you a learning moment with this question, is I actually realized that sometimes we are prepared but not really, or half the time, because like you pray to God for instance, you pray to God for like this big car, right? And in your mind you've already planned for God because you're thinking this thing is probably going to come in like 5 years time, and then God gives it to you in like 2 months after you prayed, and you start freaking out because you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So for me, it was a really huge learning moment, in a sense that I really had to learn to really start being ready and start being prepared for the things that I'm praying for, because I can't think for God. Like I can't ask God for something and then expect him to do it in 5 years, because he can do it tomorrow, he can do it in 10 years, whatever the case is, but as long as I'm always ready. So I hope that answered how I executed. But also my other thing is I really started learning how to do it and learning to match up, in a sense that I was watching a lot of Oprah Winfrey. I was watching a lot of TV shows, like not necessarily for the content, but watching for the presenters, like how are the presenters presenting on the shows, how are they interacting with their guests and all of that. And I had to read a lot of books on like interacting with people. Like I really did a lot of research and a lot of YouTube watching, trying to check other creators, other people. But I think Oprah for me was one of my biggest inspirations. So I watched a lot of like old shows from her to see how does she speak to a guest, how does she let her guests kind of get comfortable on camera, what type of questions does she ask, how does she listen, and just how to stir the conversation. So yeah, that was it. I hope that answers it for you. And then the second question is, what do you depend on to work hard? Example, motivation, discipline. For me, what I depend on mostly, I think my dream, most importantly, it becomes my biggest driving force. The sense that there's a certain life and there's certain things that I'd like to do for myself and for my family, and I will never rest until I do it. Most importantly, my mom becomes my huge driving force. We really never had an easy life growing up, and I think for me, kind of being in spaces that I really always take trying to really picture. I would actually almost call it vision, because I have a certain idea of the life and what I want to give her, what I want to give to myself, and what I want to do for my family, what I want to do for my lineage. And every single time I feel like I don't feel like doing it, that kind of wakes me up it really kind of gets me upbeat, because I realize, wait a minute, I need to act, I need to do this because this thing needs to happen. So for me, I've got tools, and sometimes I'll give my mom a call just to chat to her, literally unrelated to what I'm going through, and I will kind of get the motivation back. But it was also not easy. It really isn't easy. And I see the question also says discipline. I think discipline is more like a habit, a learning thing. I struggle with it as well. Today, like 3 days in a row, I'm doing so well. I'm waking up early, I'm doing this, and then like a day later, I crumble. I don't want to do anything. I can't get much done. But most importantly, I think constantly being so forgiving to myself also motivates me. But my family is one of my biggest motivational points in my life, and they just drive most of the things that I want to do. And I think my purpose purpose as well becomes my driving force. I think I'm really growing to understand what God has brought me on earth for. And with that said, it's something so big that I really want to accomplish it before I check out, you know what I mean? So that becomes super important for me, that I only have this one life to live and I need to live it to the fullest. And to the fullest for me is to achieve the purpose and touch the lives that I need to touch, and reach the people that I need to reach, and get to the platform that I need to get to, and just live the life that I've always wanted to live, because that is also important to me. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. And another question is, what does being kind to yourself mean? I think, being kind to yourself means loving yourself. I think when you read back to the word of God, which is something you guys know I always refer you to, is the word says love is kind. It really goes to that, where kindness is just a small particle of what love should be, but love is the wholesome that covers. So I think being kind to yourself is loving yourself, because when you love, like the word said, you become patient, you're slow to anger, you're kind, and all those other things. So being kind to yourself means loving yourself, means being patient with yourself and getting to know yourself. And I always say to people, you can't know yourself unless you know your maker. So you have to go back to God, so God can mirror you through his word and through his spirit, who you truly are and what you're meant to accomplish. And only then does it become so much easier to start loving and being kind to yourself. Because I think sometimes if you've messed up or whatever the case is, it's hard for you to love yourself, because you're judging yourself based on worldly standards. But if you were judging yourself based on what God says you are and what God's word says about you, it becomes a whole different story to actually find that self-love, So to me, that's what being kind to yourself means. I hope I answered your question. I'm really trying to not talk so much, because I've got a number of questions and I'm afraid that the video is going to be like 15 minutes long, because I can talk till tomorrow. So yeah, I'm just trying to really be as brief as I can, but give you, answer the question to the fullest. So the other questions were, how do you deal with stress? How do I deal with stress? This is a very interesting question. How do I deal with stress? I think I run back to God. Honestly, that is really me. I am that girl that every time I feel like something is stressing me, or I feel like I really can't do it anymore, my biggest escape is running back to God. And that means that sometimes, even when I don't feel like, I'm so stressed and there's so many things I don't understand and I don't want to read the Bible, all those things, what I'll normally do is I'll get like a Sarah Jakes sermon, I'll get like a Bishop T.D. Jakes sermon, like whatever I can find on the internet that I can start listening to. And I know from there my mindset becomes changed, because I've really grown to realize that sometimes stress is like a mindset thing. And by that I mean that it's like your thoughts are really traveling faster than your reality, and you don't know what to do with it. And that's where you start becoming stressed, because you're feeling like stuff is out of control. But for me, going back to God kind of brings back my mind to the reality, or most importantly, brings back my mind to the word of God, to say that, this is where this is. Like, I know the situation looks like this, but this is what God says about my situation. And that really helps me deal a lot with a lot of negative things, a lot of when things don't go my way, and a lot of stress in my life. And I know usually what happens is, like, after I've watched a sermon, I will really get pumped up to read my word, and normally I'll start praying and I'll just start reconnecting back to God again. So for me, I can only be grateful for like the power of YouTube, because that's where I go and I click on sermons that I can find, or from preachers that I really like and that I listen to, and I just start listening to it, and that really just gets me back into the mood again. So that becomes super, super, super important for me. So I will always urge somebody that every time you feel like the world is closing in on you, or every time you feel like you're not connecting to God that much, or every time you feel like it's just getting a lot more heavier and you're stressed, the biggest thing I can always recommend is just run back to God. And I know sometimes we say that so vaguely, like run back to God, but someone will say, Bish, I can't even pray. Like, that's how tough it is. I will always say, go get a sermon and listen to it. Like, literally, my go-to girl is Sarah Jakes, and like Bishop T.D. Jakes is Pastor Vlad. Like, there's so many people I know. But for me, that really breeds a lot of sanity. I just know, because sometimes the stress escalates when you let your mind be idle. So when you let your mind focus on what is the issue, when you let your mind focus on what's not going right, there you are going to have a problem, because then the stress escalates. So yeah, and I think I'll answer a last question. Let's see. A young, engaged Christian couple, your take on marriage in and out of community of property. Sure. I think on my show on Forever and Always, I actually had this chat with Tibello. I'm actually she's got a YouTube channel. I'm going to put a YouTube channel down here for you guys to follow her. She is an attorney and she does talk a lot about that. I would normally advise people to, most importantly, do what works for them. But I think the practicalities in the now and day and age and kind of looking at where you are in your life, like as a young Christian couple, what do you guys want to do? Do you guys want to get in business? You know, what do you want to do? I think for me, my biggest interpretation was the fact that if the two of you guys, for instance, are in business and you married in community, if the other one gets liquidated and they're running after his assets, they can also touch your stuff as well. And that is not protecting the family. So I don't know. It just depends how you guys look at it. I think if you guys look at it as like a way of showing love, we share everything and that whole entire thing, then you would probably have different views. But I think Tibello would be the best person to really kind of take you guys through that and really answer your questions more than anything. Also, I know Sia Bunny, I've had on my show before. She's got a Miss to Mrs. Workshop that's coming up, and I think it's important, especially if you're a young couple or if you're somebody that you got engaged, you're getting engaged, whatever the case is. It's really important to attend because you get quite a lot of lessons, and I know it's coming up quite soon. So what I'll also do is I'm going to put a link to the tickets down below as well for those people that are interested in going or just inquiring, but you will also learn more about stuff like that. So yeah, guys, I really hope that I answered your questions fully. Really, I also did receive a lot of questions concerning YouTube. I am going to do a separate video because that was quite a lot. I am going to do a separate video where I'm going to answer all YouTube related questions, and I see that a lot of you guys actually want to know my YouTube journey, which is super interesting. So I'm also going to be creating content for you guys for that separately, because I figured let me just make this holistically for like all the other stuff that I do, and then YouTube becomes like a different separate topic because that's long, it's got its own matrix, etc, etc. So yeah, I really hope that this video was fruitful for you. It was informative, and I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, do not forget to give it a thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, please be sure to hit the subscribe button. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.